Well, thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, Nigeria currently ranks second to Brazil in the production of charcoal. The Western countries particularly prefer Nigeria's charcoal. Now, as the country is rich in tropical hardwood, which burns slower and is hotter, Nigeria currently exports 380,000 metric tons of charcoal annually. The charcoal industry is a multi-billion-dollar global industry. According to the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, over 40 million metric tons of charcoal are consumed globally, and approximately 2.4 billion people rely on wood and charcoal for their daily fuel. Now, join us in the studio to talk about this is Babatunde Edu. He is the charcoal exporter. He is the national president of the Charcoal Exporters Association of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us and welcome to Daybreak.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, apparently this is a multi-billion-dollar industry in Nigeria. With what we have, with your experience so far, are we making the most of this industry?
No. No, we are not. I think for a very long time, government on their own parts never really focused attention on charcoal. And you and I know before, charcoal, we believe is only people that are stable, dirty people do the business. But it was later on, I think around May last year, there was a circular that came in from custom that government have stopped the exportation of charcoal. Then from there, I think after several moves to government, then government started getting the figures, the impact, the rules, biomass, because we call it charcoal, we also call it biomass energy. It's playing in the world. So we're not really taking, government have all this while never look into that sector, that okay, it can be kind of generating revenue for government.
At what expense are we doing that, really? Because, aren't we concerned about the impact of climate change in this regard? That it has on, the climate change and all of that.
And also health.
Oh, that's a very good question. But even today too, in the US, who are more concerned about climate change, they still fall trees. So, but they have a better regulation and policy to checkmate deforestation. So, and when we say charcoal, it's not only charcoal's stakeholders, or let me say charcoal. Okay, let me use the word stakeholders. I don't want deforestation. We have a lot of things that constitute deforestation. We have people that sort timbers from the forest. We have farmers too. At times, some farmers go to the forest, set the fire, made the bush on fire because probably they need a portion of land for their agri. Then also, we have a lot of people engaging in the forest, and also Nigerian, we are the largest producer of charcoal in West Africa, and also the largest consumer in Africa, because kerosene is not cheap, gas is not cheap. For a very long year, people have been sorting to biomass energy for their cooking. So if government can find a way that gas and kerosene be very, very cheap, there'll be less traffic in the forest.
Okay, but how sustainable is the charcoal business and also its use, considering that technology has made it so easy that you don't even need matches to cook?
Charcoal can be sustainable because once there's forest cover time to time, it can easily sustain the business. But what is lacking here is, one, there's no regulation. Even though there's regulation on the paper, I don't think in terms of implementation, government or whatever entities that's starting with that responsibility, have really tried to implement those policies. Because parallel before the ban came off, I think everybody was just doing whatever we liked. There have been some subgroups that most times, if I load a container, I pay for tree planting and some other, charges. But we discovered that most of all these monies were going to individual pockets. What those money was meant to use for is not being used for. So if government can enforce deforestation, compliance of our afforestation, that means let's have forest cover time to time, because that's the only way it can sustain the business.
Now, if you look at the rising changes in the kind of energy that is being used globally, petrol, for instance, also it's likely going to be facing some form of extinction, if you may, looking at the kind of electric cars that are now being produced and moving away from, fossil fuel itself. People are talking about gas and the likes. What are the chances, or what are the opportunities, for this sector in the global market?
Okay, now when we talk about charcoal, most people think it's only, trees. That means charcoal is only made from wood. No, we have classification of charcoals. There are only some few that we extract from woods. We have coconut shell charcoal, we have palm kernel charcoal, we have granite charcoal, we have walnut charcoal, we have dust, also waste. So all these ones are industrial charcoal, and once they are born, they are grounded and add one or two things to it, make it briquettes, so they come in different shape. So we know that very soon, the world will surely look towards industrial charcoal, which are like coconuts, palm kernel, rice molds, all those, the shaft of rice, once you bond them together, so all those two, also you make charcoal from it. So it's not only wood. And we're talking about wood, it's not all woods that can go for charcoal. There's some specific woods that go for charcoals. But like when I was in Niger State at the Emirate Council, they were talking about the producers falling down the shea butter trees. And I've told them that one, if we do not put all these stakeholders together under one umbrella, because one, we have to educate ourselves, because the producers are the key players in this sector, because they just go to the forest, 4 coconut trees, 4 palm kernel trees, orange trees, and cashew trees. These are economical trees that are not meant to be used for charcoal.
Okay, now I'm still insisting, why there's a lot of money to be made from charcoal, the health impacts cannot be overemphasized, and women and children are actually most vulnerable according to reports. Can there ever be a balance? How can you, make as much money as you would want to, in the business, and also safeguard the health of women and children?
Okay, anyway, if you've ever been to the forest where charcoal is being produced, charcoal is not just probably light up trees with fire. They are being produced charcoal is being produced without the assent of air. Okay. So most times, it doesn't bring all those kind of air pollution, harmful to climate change that we're talking about. So it's not the real way to think, because once they have the logwood together, we pour sand on it, just create a little pipe.
Okay.
In it and ignite it, so we can take for 15 days before it bakes to charcoal.
Now, what are some of the enablers, that will make this sector in Nigeria perform well, and for the government to take the most, or to make the most out of it in terms of taking advantage of it as revenue generating sector?
Okay, number one, what we are looking at, what the government can do for us is, we want government to put in, they have some policies in terms of to checkmate illegal production, illegal exportation, and to also checkmate that, we comply to the regulation that will be coming from Forest Department. And also, we also discovered that we have a lot of foreigners in our forest. People just coming to Nigeria with visiting visa. The next thing, we find them in the forest, probably just give one of the local chief maybe 1 million naira, and probably just deforest, make almost like 15 containers, and cut it from the country. Now they export those containers out of the country illegally. All those funds is not coming back to the country. So now, after this harmful effect that gets to me, nobody's telling them to come and replant trees. And all over the world, even after the ban, in other African countries, a lot of them have gone. Even some of us to also travel to all these West African countries. Their policy, it can't be their system. Their system in place to ensure that everybody conform to regulation. But it's only Nigerian. The door is open for people. We have people in the forest going away with timbers. I was in Niger State. There have been part of Niger State that was discovered like last year around November. That for years they have been falling trees, put them into containers, exporting them out. Because most times when this issue comes up, the whole thing goes to the.
And these things happen without the knowing of our regulatory bodies, the security institutions that we have in the country.
So
foreigners can just come to a state like Niger, which is almost in the middle of Nigeria, and take away these things.
It's not only Nigeria. We are talking about, we have Niger, Kogi, or your Kwara. These people they're so dominant in all these areas.
How is that even possible?
Well, that's the question we should be asking ourselves. Because I even learned in Kwara State, there was a time they came up with a policy. But once they find any foreigner into the forest and they hold him accountable, before you realize somebody from the State Assembly put the call through, tell them to release such people. So if we have good policy in place.
Is it about the policy or implementing the policy?
Policy to implement it. All this while, we discovered last year that after the ban, there was no national association for the sector. That's what came about. We have in NAGDIN. That's National Association of Charcoal Producers, Dealers, Exporters, and Deforestation of Nigeria, which was formed by Trade and Investment. So then we only have subgroups in Oyo, in Kwaras, and all over the states in the north and south and southeast. So these activities have been there for very long. I remember several times when I'm trying to seal a deal with all these Arabs they tell me they know my country better than I do. Why would I buy? Why would they buy from me such price that they can probably easily go to the forest, pay a chief,
and smuggle it out,
and burn the shackle and smuggle it out? So that's why I felt, okay, fine. It's not still probably there's no evidence of what stakeholders have done in terms of tree planting. But the question is, all the money that we're paying, anytime we load, people tax us on the roads, all this money have gone to individuals' pockets. So that's okay. It's good for us to put all our heads together. Since Trade and Investment, they're the only government NDAs that can form a national commodity association, and they have their own criteria. It means all stakeholders, both processors, exporters, dealers, we must all come together so that we can educate ourselves, we can checkmate ourselves, and enforce compliance against failure of not planting adequate trees, because that's the only way we can survive. We can sustain the business.
So at your own association, at your own level, is there something like a registry, for all people involved in this business? And how are you collaborating with our security agencies in terms of providing information as to unauthorized persons who have access to some of these forests and are doing these deals?
Last December, the process from June last year to December before we had the election, August 28 last year, the name was given, the name NAGDIN came to be. Then last year, around December 2nd, we had the election, where I was elected to be the president. Then on the 9th, we did the inauguration, but right now we're in CAC. So we also know that, okay, there's the big event coming up from Trade and Investment. It's called launching. So they also launch us with some commodity association to the entire country. So after this, then we can now set up task force. That task force will be we, NAGDIN, police, soldiers, we surely communicate all these shortcomings in the sector to them, so we'll be able to enforce. By then, all governors will be at the event. So when we're releasing them one-on-one, we have to tell them, okay, this is what is happening in the country, this is what's happening in our forest. Most times, they are not on the field, we are there. So, but no, how the whites are making it so easy to penetrate through government agencies in doing the wrong thing, and they are let go. So.
I actually read somewhere, that even while the ban was still in place last year, you actually had foreigners who were still making charcoal and felling trees in the forest. So, something needs to be done about it.
Well, really fast, really. Now, in terms of, again, I go back to the issue of revenue. What do you look forward to? Is it in payment of taxes? Or is it in payment of levies, that your sector is going to be contributing to the government?
Okay, in the year 2019, because when the ban came up, though I know I won't blame government, because government cannot overlook us not being responsible in the sector, because we are not responsible. It means we are not coordinating ourselves in the appropriate ways, and also enforcing that tree planting, because we have to be planting trees time to time. That's the standard obtained all over the world. So, but no, because nobody was paying attention to that sector, it was left people to misbehave in that sector. Now, in 2019, according to the United States, United Nations, the business raking about $7.7 million. That's about 31 billion to the country 2019. So that's why most of us were worried. Does it mean that governments did not see all these figures before they imposed the ban on the sector? Because partly before the ban, several foreign companies have given a lot of us money ranging for like $1 million. All those money have trapped into the country since May last year up to now. So for my own calculation, I'll say, okay, right now, government have lost almost about, let me say $100 million on the sector that will have breaking since probably, the country is shortfall of, foreign earning for now. So now on our own part, when we export, the money coming through the country through NXP, so which is, advantage for the government. Then on our own part too, there will be a lot of taxes among ourselves because we are the one benefiting the sector. So we have to tax ourselves in terms of planting of trees, because that's the main thing. We tax ourselves. So all these, the normal traditional ways of doing the business totally will change.
Okay. All right. I beg your pardon. Another thing that I would like to ask is in terms of this planting of trees. What's the strategy, or I would say, how do you go about this planting of trees? What are the expectations from members of your association?
Okay, I remember last year December, because when we were trying to form NAGDIN, we cited several locations which tree was planted. So December, I took the trip on my own to go and check. So I discovered that trees were planted. There are few plantations that are in existence for now. But what I discovered is that then, a lot of stakeholders that plant all these trees don't have the professional knowledge of planting trees. So, when you go to forest estates, you surely see that professionalism there, but it's lacking. So what I'm going to do now is, one, already we have a consultant that we'll be working with together. He's a doctor and also a professor in forest economics. So also an international certified forest manager. So he will be the one leading in the area of our forestation program.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll conclude on this discussion. Please stay with us. We're about wrapping up the show, and just before we go, we'd like to wrap up on the discussion talking about charcoal being a gold mine that is yet untapped. And we still have in the studio National President, Charcoal Exporters Association of Nigeria, Babatunde Edu. Now, just before we go, can you briefly share with us your final thoughts? Okay, our final thought is one. We are looking forward to government to be able to lift the ban, because if government lift the ban, NAGDIN will take its course. That means in terms of putting all the stakeholders together, then we also enforce what we have to do, because we have our operational plan in place. Because right now, this is 11 months now that the business is stuck. We have a lot of investments in the country that are destroyed. We have people's money that's stuck. Like me, I could have been doing ginger sesame seed, because one thing about shaco is we have a buyer that want to buy shaco, also want to buy other commodities in our session. But right now, they said they can't do that because the Nigerian government is not sensitive. We can't just wake up and impose the ban the next day. There should have been like a grace. So for that reason, they said they can't part with their money too, because we have several millions of dollars stuck in the country. We have a lot of container depots accumulating demurrage. Some are destroyed on the roads. Then even to make it matter worse, police right now chase us up and down with
police cases because of investors in Nigeria want to have their money at all costs.
Well, we just hope it gets better. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak today. Hope to have you, sometime soon.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so that was National President, Charcoal Exporters Association of Nigeria, Babatunde Edu. And with that, we wrap up a Daybreak today. Thank you so much for tuning in from beginning to the end. I am Darshan Hussaina Usman.
And I am Ayubele. Thank you for watching. Remember, you can always follow us across all social media platforms and also subscribe to our YouTube channel where this is being aired live. Thank you for watching. Bye.